What's going on, trenders? You are locked into Trending with Naeya, and today I have a very special guest, Amit Ghose, who is here to teach us more about neurofibromatosis type 1. We are going to dig into Amit's journey and we are going to learn all about it and how we can help to raise awareness. So Amit, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you here. Now, before we start, I want you to kind of talk about NF1 for anyone that doesn't know what exactly it is.
So I was born with this condition called neurofibromatosis type 1, more commonly known as NF1. It's a condition that causes tumours to grow on nerves. It can grow anywhere in the body. A lot of people who have NF1 will have tumours growing on their hands. So I've got tumours growing all throughout my hands. But for me, predominantly it's growing on my face, which has caused one side of my face to look significantly different to the other half. It also grew around my eyelid when I was younger, so that resulted in me losing my eye and having an artificial eye. So yeah, in a nutshell, NF1 is tumours that grow on nerves, basically.
Are there any other side effects, or are there any other things that people have that may not have the physical tumours, but it could affect them mentally, maybe?
Yeah, so absolutely. So in terms of how to spot when people are younger, or if you're a parent, you want to spot if your child has NF1, you have these cafe spots. So they're like these spots on your body that look like sort of coffee patches. Okay. So you've noticed those appearing on your child's body, then it's probably best to go and consult a GP. A lot of people who have NF1 can have what's known as scoliosis as well, which is the curvature of the spine, because what happens is the tumours start growing inside. So I've got scoliosis as well because the tumours grow next to my spine, so that causes the spine to curve as well. So those are the things that you need to watch out for, basically.
Okay, amazing. So now that us and the viewers know a bit more about it, let's talk about your personal journey. So you were born in India.
Yes, I was.
And it wasn't until the age of 2 that people started noticing that the left side of your face was a little bit more swollen. So
really?
You were born with this condition, right?
I was, yeah.
So no one picked it up at the time you were born?
No.
Did you have anything on your body, any signs?
So I had the cafe spots, which would have been quite easy to spot, I guess, had I been in a slightly more advanced medical setup at that time. But the way the condition is, the tumours will grow regardless. There's no cure for neurofibromatosis. They can do what they call debulk, which is they can remove some of the tumours. And I've had those surgeries throughout my life where they've removed certain parts of the tumour, but it tends to always grow back.
Okay. So there isn't a cure for it?
There isn't a cure, no.
Okay. So at the age of 2, you were still in India at the time when people started noticing it?
Yes. They didn't know what it was at that time. We're from northeast of India, very close to Bangladesh, in a place called Silchar. We went from there to Delhi. We went to New Delhi to consult doctors there. They said, at that time, my father was living in England. Okay. So he moved here during the 60s, as many of our forefathers did. And because he was already in England, he thought, you know what, to get the best medical care, let's move my family over to England. So that time we came over to England, and that's when my medical journey started. And that's when they sort of realised that this is neurofibromatosis.
So you were diagnosed in England?
In England, yeah.
Okay, so growing up, that must have been difficult. I'm sure you faced a lot of struggles. Let's talk about that a bit. So just firstly, how did your parents react?
I think my father, for me, he never made me feel like I had this condition. Yeah. And I think that's a testament to my confidence that I have today. It's because of the way he dealt with it with me. I mean, I've heard stories that he would cry in the bedroom when, he was alone, or when he was with my mom. Or when I wasn't home, he'd get really teary, and he would tell all my other siblings that, they need to treat me just as normally as they treat everyone else. They can't make me feel that I'm different. I know when I was going for my really big surgery, when I had my eye removed at the age of 11, the doctor said, because it was a brain surgery, it was like 12-hour surgery. At the age of 11, they said anything can happen. And because I was under the age of 18, he had to sign my consent. And he signed the consent and came home. And I've heard these stories recently where apparently he was just crying his eyes out. But in front of me, he never made me realise that I was different. And I think that's why I've got this confidence of saying, actually, you know what? I embrace and celebrate who I am, and I let my personality shine rather than worrying about my visual difference.
And so your parents, still loved and accepted you, built you up. What about the other people in the community? Because I feel like the Indian community isn't always very nice to people
No.
that look a bit different. I mean, we discussed this off camera, like even if someone has a darker complexion, you know,
Your friend.
even that is seen as the most horrible thing, like, oh my God, this person's darker than me. So for you, where you have this, a condition that you can't help, and what was that like?
There were so many different sort of incidences that I can recall that were happening. You know, my parents being blamed for it. Oh, you must have done something bad in your life. As a result, you've been
punished with this.
You've been punished with this. And my dad used to always say he's proud of me. You know, he celebrates who I am. He's happy. You know, that I've come so far. I'm in school. I'm playing cricket. I'm doing all of this. Even playing cricket, you know, I used to like playing cricket, and people would come to my dad and say, "Oh, don't let him play cricket. You know, he's already got this face. What if he gets hurt and you know it gets worse? You know,
you might break him."
Yeah, exactly. So it was crazy. So some of the comments, you know, when I was younger as a kid, it was unbelievable. Some people thought it was contagious. They wouldn't let me hang out with their children, thinking they might catch it. And I'm like,
don't touch him. This is really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, you're laughing about it now.
Yeah.
And I can see you're very confident in yourself. But I think as a kid, that must have really affected you and upset you.
It was traumatizing. It was really, really upsetting. You know, there were times where I felt like, you know, going into school, I used to find it really difficult. And now reflecting back to why I found it difficult at that time, you know, depression, anxiety, you know, wasn't really a thing for a 7-8-year-old. You know, you don't really understand it. But now looking back, I didn't have a lot of friends in school, you know, in year 4, year 5, because people were scared to be my friend. 1, because they didn't understand what this was. But 2, they felt like some of the cooler kids that were in the class wouldn't be their friend. So like, actually, let's not be friends with him. Let's just stay away. I mean, my best friend was like the support teacher that I had in the classroom.
Yeah. So would you say it was quite lonely at school for you?
School definitely. Primary school definitely was lonely. Up until the point where I learned to accept what I've got and embrace it. It was a very lonely place.
So like you said, you've got siblings, and they always treated you the same.
Yeah.
But what about other children in your family?
There was always this sort of difference that, oh, he's different, we're better than him.
Yeah.
Let's be nice to him, but let's not give him all our best toys. You know, we'll hold on to those just in case, like, you know, he contaminates it or something. But you know, it was that kind of thing. And I, like you said, I laugh about it now, but it's daunting sometimes. It's thinking about it now as well, reflecting back at that time. It's like those incidents that made me stronger, but at that time were really, really upsetting, and it made my younger childhood very difficult at times.
And I guess you've gone one way, where you've become a person that now inspires people, you're raising awareness, and you're on a mission, right?
Yeah.
But I think for, you know, another child that maybe has gone through a similar process in you, they could have gone down a really dark hole. Like you said, depression and anxiety wasn't a thing back then.
Yeah.
It just wasn't spoken about,
It wasn't
right?
spoken
But,
about.
you know, that could have led to even, like, let's say suicide.
Absolutely.
Anything like suicide attempts, whatever. Like, it really could have damaged a child's mental health.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not having friends and being made to feel different.
Yeah.
Even from family members.
Exactly. And, you know, those thoughts that you've just said about those depression, anxiety, suicide, you know, they are thoughts that come to your mind, but you have to have the ability to fight those in one way or another. And the community just doesn't make it easy sometimes, especially if you're visibly different.
Yeah. What was it like for you? Like, you know, I'll say it, kids are brutally honest, and kids can be just horrible for the sake of being horrible. And,
Yes.
you know, I've seen it in the streets where you see someone that maybe even is just in a wheelchair, and you'll see kids pointing and stuff like that. What was that like for you? Do you still get that?
I still get that. And, you know, you've said it perfectly. Kids are brutally honest. They're curious. They're inquisitive. They want to know.
Yeah.
They point. They ask questions. I mean, since going on this journey and making these videos, I've had people asking me on my videos, oh, how do I deal with my child pointing at somebody?
Yeah.
Or I've had someone who's got the condition saying, how do I deal with someone pointing at me, or a kid coming up to me? And, you know, it makes it very awkward. Like you'd be in a room and you walk in and suddenly a child is pointing at you and the whole room suddenly goes quiet. And
no one knows what to say.
No one knows what to say. No one knows what to say. And the way I can only answer from my lived experiences, the way I deal with it is trying to interact with that child just to show them that I'm normal. I mean, I say normal in quotations because none of us are normal. We're all different in our own ways. But if I just say hello to that child and say, how are you doing? Suddenly they're like, oh, this person's talking to me. Okay? And then their eyes suddenly light up and they're looking at you. And then, you know, with the permission of the parents, sometimes I'll shake their hand. And then the child starts interacting with you. Then you can tell them what's happened and say, look, I was born with a condition and I'm different. But aren't we all different? You know, we're all different in our own way. And we all celebrate that. And then that way, that kid then...
So in a way, you're normalising it.
Normalising it, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And as a parent, you know, you need to sort of explain to your children that we're all different in our own ways and we need to celebrate our differences. The more we can celebrate differences, you know, if we're all the same, the world would be a boring place.
And do you think, I think now people are a lot more aware of other people and differences, and, you know, people are trying to normalise a lot of things. And it's good because the kids and even us as adults are being educated.
Yes.
But do you think back when you was a kid, there was that lack of education when, let's say, the parents in that generation weren't teaching their kids?
100%. I mean, there's a stigma like, oh, you're different. You know, you must have done something bad in your previous life, or, you know, your parents must have done something bad for you to reap the rewards of you looking like this. It was very, very negative. It was very, very, oh, you're different. You're untouchable almost. Like in India, it was even worse. Like the first time when I went back to India, at the age of 9, people were like, oh, hey, this person's untouchable. You know, you can't touch this kid. You know, you're not because you're going to get it. You just feel like there's something negative about this person. Is possessed or has been possessed in the past. Things like that as well. You know, you got it all, and it's absolutely heartbreaking.
So at what point did the visible differences get worse, get bigger? Because it started off looking just like a swollen side of your face.
So as I started secondary school, my eyelid was starting to get bigger and bigger, and the doctors at that point said there's not a lot they can do. It is how it is.
Yeah.
And at that point, you know, a new consultant came, and he was like a life changer for me. He came up with this idea that he will remove the eye, which was scary to hear at that time. But he said he'll remove the eye and he'll give me a prosthesis. So at the age of 11, when I had the really big eyelid, going into school was starting year 7 with that eyelid and, you know, that kind of visible difference was really, really hard, especially going into, you know, the form classes that you have in year 7 and you're starting the induction. I was really, really scared to go up to people and start talking to people, especially because of the experience I'd had in primary school. But yeah, so the eye was removed when I was 11 years old, and then I used to wear an eye patch for about a year while the eye was healing. So that was also a really, really difficult period because there were lots of comments that were being made in terms of like, you know, Popeye, Eye Captain. There were so many different names that children, you know, kids would call me, and it was a very sort of difficult time.
Was there, you know, a kind of change from primary school where there were people that were accepting at secondary school, or was it just a lot more of the same, if not worse?
I think the change happened when I accepted myself.
Yeah.
And that's where the change comes from. And this is the messaging that I'm trying to give to people through my social media videos, that once you start accepting yourself for who you are, celebrating yourself for who you are, what you are, how you are, that's when people will start accepting you. So the change happened for me in year 7. Year 8, I said to myself, probably unknowingly then, but I said to myself, it is what it is. I can't change the way I look. I need to start exposing my personality to people. I need to go out and just... So when these bullies, so-called bullies, were bullying me because of my eye patch or because of, you know, my condition, I started joking around with them. I started laughing with them, and I started sort of bouncing that off their banter almost. And suddenly
take the power out of then what they're saying.
Yeah, exactly, because they're feeding off me getting upset and me going into a shell. Suddenly when I'm empowering it and I'm like, oh really, very funny, they're suddenly like, oh, this guy's just laughing with us. Yeah. And then once they do that, they start talking to you, and then you can start sort of exposing some of your other personality traits. So I started playing cricket in year 7. I joined the cricket club. Suddenly I went from Amit, the guy with the facial difference, to Amit, who plays cricket.
Yeah.
So, you know, those are the kind of things that I'm trying to tell people who have visible differences, who are struggling with their confidence. to say, look, start looking at yourself rather than looking at the people around you and saying, so and so is making this comment, such and such is doing this. Try and say, okay, this is who I am. I accept it. Now I'm going to go out and.
So you changed your own narrative, really?
Yes.
Because you could have just felt sorry for yourself for the rest of your life and thought, maybe I am that person and maybe I don't deserve to be here.
Yeah. And I say that a lot. I said that in one of my videos. I said I had two choices when I was in secondary school. I could sit back and sulk and feel sorry for myself, or I could get up, celebrate who I am, embrace it, and try and take a positive spin on it and make a difference.
100%. And I think you've done really well so far from what I know of you. So, okay, you've left school, you've joined cricket, and you're becoming into yourself, right?
Yeah.
Now I kind of want to talk about the marriage side of things, because we all know, like, Indian families, once you finish uni, that's it, you're going to go get married now. What was the struggles of that like for you? Because from what I've seen online on TikTok, it wasn't easy for you.
Yeah. The truth is, a lot of people in my family didn't think I'd ever get married. They thought he's not going to get married. I was having a conversation the other day, actually, with my brother and my wife, and he said that he was worried that somebody would marry me to take advantage of me, not to marry me for who I am. And a lot of my family members just were like, let's not even try, because people are just going to reject him.
Yeah.
And I used to go to weddings, and I'd be I'd be standing by the bar, and I'd hear a group of aunties talking amongst themselves, saying, "Oh, bichara, who would marry him? You know, he's a really nice guy, but at the end of the day, he
looks like that's a no one's gonna have him."
Yeah. Somebody even said to me, "Oh, put yourself in her parents' shoes. Would you want your daughter to get married to someone who looks like that?" And I'm like, how can you just say that to me? Is that
based on
how we're having this conversation?
Yeah. That's crazy that people still have that mentality.
Yeah.
And I guess that generation of aunties, they are quite backward.
Yeah.
Have you ever had those kind of comments from people in our generation?
No, not as such, no. But people always said, "Oh, you're a good friend," and it's
just that.
Yeah, and then it's just that. And I've had friends telling me, saying, "Amit, you'll have some great friends in your life, but I think marriage is going to be really hard, because as cruel as it sounds, the way everything's set up now with media, social media, television, everything is promoting beauty in such a way, and everything's promoting perfection in such a way that anything that's not within that realm is deemed ugly, and that's the ugly truth, really. And people don't want to be with somebody who's aesthetically not pleasing.
Did you ever doubt it? People say, "Oh, you can't ever get married." Did you ever think, what, maybe that isn't for me, and they're right?
Yeah, I did. There were many times in my life where I thought, actually, you know what, it's not for me, especially because of the rejections that I was getting with arranged marriages that my family were attempting as well. I always wanted an arranged marriage because all my brothers, siblings, cousins, everyone had a wife from India. They were very happy. I'm very traditional. I liked that traditional setup, so I wanted to have that arranged marriage, but it just wasn't working out.
So then did you ever try and go and look for it yourself?
Yeah, I did. I had profiles on matrimonial sites, but it just wasn't working. People weren't receiving the phone. Even though I was brutally honest in my bio, I was saying, I've got this condition, but I celebrate it. This is who I am. These are the things I enjoy doing. These are my hobbies. This is my family setup. This is what I've got to offer. People weren't buying it.
That's really horrible. So you are now married.
I have.
Later.
Thank you very much.
So, and actually, fun fact, he had his reception just this past weekend gone.
I did, yeah.
Amazing. So let's talk about that. So how did you first of all meet your wife?
So I go to India a lot. So I was in India and I was talking to my friend about the whole thing of this arranged marriage thing not working out. And we were just having a conversation about it. And he didn't say anything to me at that time. But I came back to England and he gave me a call and he said, "Look, there's this girl that I know who is really down to earth, really sweet, really humble. I think you guys would get on. Can I give her your number?" And I was like, "I trust you. I trust your instinct. If you think, we'll get on, go ahead and do that." So he went over to her and he spoke to her. He showed her my picture. He was brutally honest about my condition. He said, they've got a really good family. You'll be happy. You'll be well looked after. The whole traditional thing, you're going to have a good life with him. He's a really nice, caring guy. She said no first, not because of my condition. She just said, I'm not in a position to get married at the moment. I don't want to get married. She's a makeup artist by profession. So she's like, if I want to focus on my career, I want to get on with doing makeup. And I'm fully booked for the next 3 months. So I've got no time for this.
No time to get married.
Yeah, I've got no time for this. Just leave me alone. But anyway, he was like, I'm giving him your number anyway. So apparently she just rolled her eyes at him. And he came and told me, and I was like, there's no way I can message her. Like, are you being serious? And he's like, no, just send her a message. Trust me. So I did. And she didn't reply for about half an hour, and that half an hour is probably the longest half an hour of my life. But she eventually replied back saying, yeah, I know, thanks, how you doing? And we just started messaging, here and there. I was telling her about things I like doing. I was asking her what she likes doing. She was like, I like cooking. I was like, well, I like eating. And we're like,
it just works.
It just works, yeah. And interestingly, when we first spoke on video call, I used to show her half of my face. So I'd angle the camera in such a way that she can only see half of my face, not my full face. And first few times she didn't say anything. And the third time she's like, I'm going to say something. And I was like, what? She goes, if things work out between us, if this goes anywhere, I'm not going to marry half of your face. I'm going to marry all of you. So you might as well just cut and then show me your full face. And that was probably the defining moment for me when I thought, you know what? This person's the right person for me because she actually accepts me.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is great. And from that point, we just got closer and closer. Not to say her family were like dead against it right from the start.
Yeah.
Because of my condition, but she fought for it, and then we were married.
Amazing. I love stories, and that was just beautiful. But you, the point you made about showing just half of your face.
Yeah.
Have you felt like that, like you had to hide parts of yourself?
Yes, and I've done it in the past. I mean, only recently have I really opened up about taking pictures from front angle.
Yeah.
I used to always stand on a certain side of the room, so anyone taking pictures will take pictures on the right
Your
side of my face. Good side, yeah, exactly. And all my profile, all my pictures on all my social media will always like me standing in an angle with my good side.
Yeah.
And I think recently I've only learned to accept that and say, actually, no. This, and my wife played a huge role in that, actually, to say, actually, this is the whole of me, take it or leave it.
I want to talk about how you didn't let this condition hold you back, basically. So you had your defining moment in year 7 and you thought, F this, I'm not going to let the bullies win.
Yep.
You went on to uni and you got yourself a degree now. I think, when some people are born with differences, sometimes people think that's the only thing about their personality. It's the only thing you could ever talk to them about.
Yeah.
So for you going to uni, how much of a big deal was that for you and getting that degree?
Going to university was a really, really big deal for me, predominantly because my dad, none of my other siblings went to universities just because of the timings that we came to this country. And nobody in my generation had gone to university or got a degree ever. So all my dad's friends, all my father's friends, their children were born here. They went to uni, they got a degree, and he was always really upset that he hadn't had a child and gone to university and got a degree. And I started university in 2019, and unfortunately he passed away in 2019. So he never saw me get the degree, but for me, getting that degree was, for me, a big personal sort of achievement, but for him as well. I wanted to do it for him. And going to university on the first day, again, those challenges, those thoughts, those perceptions about how people are going to perceive me, how they're going to accept me, how they're going to deal with me were really, really haunting. And it was, the first day of university, I remember when we were in that sort of freshest classroom, I sat at the back in the corner all by myself, just trying to observe the room, just trying to gather my thoughts, just trying to get my strength to actually go out and talk to people about how I'm going to, show my personality, how I'm going to let my personality shine. Because I know those are the kind of things that I do to overcome the condition, but it's not always easy to just execute that when you're in a new environment. So, the first few weeks at university, I always just sit by myself on a corner, and then I started joining different societies, the Hindu Society, the Cricket Society, and slowly but surely started to mingle with people, start talking to people and developing those relationships with people so people could see me for who I am rather than my condition. And then, so in the end, to go and get that degree and actually, take a photograph on that day with my mom. My uncle was there because my dad couldn't be. But it was just really upsetting that, that dad wasn't there to see it. But I knew, he's watching from somewhere.
100%, wherever he is.
Yeah.
And he's very proud.
Exactly. So I hope he is. Yeah. So yeah, I knew that he's watching me getting that degree. And then go and get a job as well. Going to job interviews were always really, really scary for me because I thought people would judge me. And I felt at times there were certain job interviews where I thought I did very well. And I think the face just didn't fit in the end, pardon the pun, but it felt like the face didn't fit and I didn't get those jobs. But thankfully I'm in a really, really good role now. I'm working, I'm on this mission to do this journey and raise awareness about the visibly different community. I want to help the visibly different community get on to the, get in the forefront of media more, have more media representation, have better representation as well. So, people can be more welcoming. If the faces of people with visible differences are on TV more so than they were before, people will be more accepting towards these people as well. They'll be more included and normalized, basically.
Yeah. Just about the workplace and navigating through that, your career. Now when, you're applying for jobs, they have that equality section, don't they?
Do.
So I feel like are companies just doing that for show? Is it a farce where they're saying, yeah, we care about equality, but is there still discrimination against someone that looks different?
Where I work now, no, but there have been organisations I worked for in the past where you could tell it's sort of a tick box exercise for them.
Okay.
And you can say that, we need a certain amount of females in this role, so we're going to put some females in this role, regardless of if they have the credentials to be there or not. And, especially with me, when I started a job at somewhere, I remember I was walking past, this was going back about just after my degree. It was like a call center type role. And I was walking past the photocopy machine and somebody was saying, oh, have you seen that new guy who started with that face? It's really, really scary, isn't it? And
oh my God.
Yeah. So, and that I just stood in the coffee area making a coffee thinking, oh my God, like people aren't comfortable around me. How do I deal with this? But 3 months down the line, those same people were sitting with me in a social environment saying,
being your best mate.
I mean, you're great. So it's that perception. Sometimes it takes time for people to accept people, but it's not a nice journey.
I think that's actually really, really sad that someone said, oh, it's really scary, because that couldn't have been nice to hear those.
No,
they probably didn't think you were listening.
No, they didn't think I was listening. And it's because society, it's how society has presented to people with visible differences as well. It's how, your social media hasn't really helped. All the filters and all this and hyping beauty in the way it does hasn't helped. And
there's definitely a false perception of beauty.
There's definitely a false perception of beauty, and that needs to change, I think.
Wow. So comments like that, has that been something constant throughout your life? Yeah,
it has. Sit on the bus, when I'd get on the bus, the group that's at the back of the bus, as soon as I'd get upstairs, especially when I was going to college and stuff, they were like, oh my God, have you seen that face? Oh my God. There'd be people a story that's just come to my mind. I was walking past a bus stop once, and this happened numerous times, but this one particular time, one guy saw my face and he was like, oh my God, what is that? And then I walked past, and then his friends were like, what? They hadn't seen it. So to see it, to get my attention, they were like, excuse me. So I looked back, all of them went, oh my, and there was one of them who was like a bit sane out. The rest of them were like, oh, what's the time? And they just had to find an excuse of why they called me. And I just looked. Yeah, I just looked at them, and if that happened to me now, the other day I was in the shopping mall and someone got scared of me, and I was like, they jumped and they looked scared, and I was like, why did you get scared? What's happened? I said it to them. I wouldn't have done that 5 years ago, but I said it to them, and they're like, oh, nothing. I'm like, no, was there something that scared you about me? And I said, look, I've got a condition. I was born with this. It's completely normal. I've come shopping just like you have.
I'm a normal person.
Yeah. Next time you see someone with a visible difference, just give them a smile. If she smiled and walked off, and I'm sure and I hope that if she sees someone with a visible difference next time, that she'll smile.
I think she will, because I bet you she's done that in the past and no one's called her out on it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like people that are normal have this entitlement that, we're better than you?
Yeah, a lot. Like I said, I had it in my childhood, had it in my teens, had it in my early 20s. People were like, yeah, we can do a certain job better than you, so we'll do it. You stay at the back. If there's a group photo, we'll put you at the back because we're better than you. We'll stay at the front. We do get that a lot.
It hasn't, like, this condition, it hasn't affected, like, you mentally or being able to learn or anything. Like, it's literally just physical outshell.
It can have learning difficulties. The condition itself can have learning difficulties. Thankfully for me, it didn't have those. Yeah. But people, as soon as they see someone with a visible difference, see someone in a wheelchair, see someone with one arm, one leg, they all of a sudden just think this person, they make up their mind and say this person isn't good enough, or this person can't do certain things, so we'll do it for them. Yeah. Sometimes you don't want that pity, you don't want that help. One of the, like I said, one of the contributing factors of success for me was my father, my family didn't show the pity to me. They just dealt with me like they would.
It's normal, yeah.
Exactly. So
he wasn't exempt from washing the dishes.
Yes, no, I wasn't at all, at all. And my father would tell me off a lot if I didn't do my homework. I was actually scared of my brother. I once say he's got these really expensive speakers, and I broke one of them. And I was just scared that he's going to beat me up. It was like, Asian parents, family get beaten.
Do you think, so he spoke about pity, so it's kind of two scales here. So you have some people that are just so afraid and won't go near you and you're so contagious. But then on the flip side, do you think there was also that side of people that were like just giving you so much pity and like batana and all of this for no reason, for you, literally like a normal person, normal child getting on with your life? Yeah. And there's people that are just like doing too much. Do you feel like you experienced that as well?
I did experience that a lot, and I think a lot of people who have visible differences experience that, and they don't want that. They just want to get on with their life. They just want to go shopping and come home. They don't want you suddenly helping them with their trolley. They're completely able to do that, and they feel empowerment by doing that. It's good for them. But you've got people coming in trying to help them and trying to, making it obvious then, you don't sometimes...
You're making it about the condition.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to do that. You just let them be.
Yeah, so they don't look at you as just a person.
Yeah, exactly.
You spoke about that incident at the bus stop and you were walking past. Like, I feel like situations like that can really like make or break you, and it obviously must have had an effect on your mental health. So was there any instances where you kind of took yourself out of social interactions or events like that where you thought, I don't really want to go there because I know this is going to happen? Did you go through that as well?
Yeah, I do. At one point I didn't want to go to any sort of wedding parties and things like that because I knew that people are just going to look at me and make this assumption of a child, he's not going to get married, or he's come, but he's actually not happy, even though I'm like completely fine with my life. Yeah. They're making these assumptions that, he's not happy in his life, or he's struggling in his life, or someone once said to me, are your friend's doing really well? He's got a nice job. He's just got married. How do you feel about that? And I'm like, I'm happy for him.
Like what did they want you to do?
Yeah, so I did.
Really jealous.
Yeah, it didn't connect with me at that time why they asked me. But then when I went home and I was sitting down, I was like, basically they're asking me because I'm not married, and
they probably
they're thinking I'm not happy. They're thinking I'm depressed, and they're just trying to look out for me or something. So yeah, you get that a lot.
Wow. What are those people's reactions now to you now that you're married?
Being at my wedding party, me and my friend used to always have this joke, like, he goes, when you get married, so many people are going to come to the wedding thinking, how did you get married? What happened? How did you get married? And I was just looking around those people thinking, these people are probably thinking that right now. They're thinking, what happened?
How did this happen?
Yeah, exactly. Because they had no confidence in that. They just thought, I'm not going to get married.
I think God always has a plan. I
think God does always have a plan.
Now, it's finally time to talk about your TikTok journey. You have been all over everyone's For You page. How did it all start?
Oh, I don't even know. It was crazy. Like, I always wanted to raise awareness, and I've always done bits and bobs where I've spoken to people with visible differences about how they can empower themselves, how they can accept themselves. Yeah. And I recently, just before I started the TikTok journey, put up a blog on my LinkedIn account. So I wrote a blog called I'm Visibly Different and Proud. And that came about from me going to a charities website called Face Equality International. Yeah. So Face Equality International talk about the acceptance of people with visible differences, normalizing it, removing the stigma, getting more positive media representation for people with visible differences. And I read all of that and I was like, this is exactly the message I want to give out to the world. So I wrote that blog, and that blog just, blew up. I got so much positive attention from that. People commenting, people saying you've made a real positive impact. People at my workplace who didn't know my story read that and felt so inspired, and it was really good. And from that, one day I was just going for a walk and I was thinking, what else can I do to actually get this message out? And never in a million years did I think I'm going to make a TikTok account. But I made a video and I uploaded it. And the first video was just me talking about having this condition, looking visibly different. And I said, I'm going to make a video to help support and inspire people who have a visible difference by sharing my real lived experiences. And the response I just got from that first video was amazing. It had like 10,000 views within the first 24 hours. So many people commenting, and I was like, I've got to carry on. I've got to do more videos. So I started doing more videos, and then a lot of people asking questions. So I start answering those questions as well. And now I've got, I've got to tell you this wonderful story of this girl.
Yeah.
She messaged me after she saw the videos of me and said, look, I'm really scared to wear short sleeves because my tumors show. And whenever I go on holiday, I can't go swimming because I've got tumors on my legs and everything. And I had a conversation with her. I said, look, if the people around you judge you for your tumors, do you really want those people around you? Do you want to be friends with people who would leave you in a click of a finger just because, you've got a couple of scars? Just think about that. And I left it at that, and she, we didn't really say much. And then she sent me a message on TikTok about a week after saying, Amit, I've put a status up on my Facebook a couple of days ago saying that I've got this condition, NF, and I'm proud and I will embrace it. And I went to my workplace, and my supervisor said, oh, you've just put that status up. I've actually got NF as well. Yeah. So they bonded, they became stronger together, and suddenly she felt so empowered. I asked her how she feels. She goes, she just feels really good that she's opened up.
Yeah.
And her last post was her on some beach, and she was wearing a bikini, and she was really, really happy. So I'm so proud of her that she's doing that. But that's just one person's life that got positively impacted by this.
And that's just actually one person that's got in touch with you. You don't know actually how many people you could have inspired and empowered that maybe haven't said anything to you yet, but in their own personal life, you made a real difference.
That's the journey. That's the journey I want to go on. And the more I can do that, and the wider I can do that, the better it is going to be. And
also, I think it just goes to show that when we do open up about things, and this goes for anything really, like even if you're struggling with your mental health or whatever, when you speak up and you open up, you kind of realise, actually, I'm not the only person going through this, because she probably never thought that her supervisor had the same condition.
Exactly. And she never had that sort of perception that she's going to open up to people about it, because she thought, oh, I'm going to lose my friends if I open up about it.
Yeah.
But
you don't want those kind of friends.
You don't want that kind of attention. And sometimes I feel grateful for the condition I've got. Well, I'm always grateful for it. But what I mean by that is, I know I've got the people that are around me are real. People that are around me aren't around me just because of the way I look or who I am.
Exactly.
They're real friends, basically.
Have you built also a community of other people that have got NF1?
So there are communities. There's the communities, but this all happened after TikTok. To be fair, there's the one called NF Warriors, who's based up in Texas. She reached out to me and said, I've got this group called NF Warriors. We're building a community where everyone can share ideas. They've even got like a dating site on segment on there, so different people with NF can talk to each other and maybe even get together and get married. So there, there's so much going on. There is a lot going on.
So aside from TikTok, what other things have you got in plan?
Well, to be fair, I never thought I'm going to go onto social media. There was never a plan. Somebody else asked me this the other day, said, so what's your plan for the next 6 to 12 months? I'm like, I don't know. All I know is I want to raise awareness for the visibility different community. All I know is I want to get more representation. I put a video up the other day. I said, I think my mission will be complete the day I see someone with a visible difference hosting the Oscars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that is that kind of mission that I'm on, that to normalize visible difference. It's not a thing. It's just someone else celebrating who they are, what they are, how they are.
And they don't need to be singled out because they look a bit different.
Exactly.
Also, you're writing a book. Tell us more about that.
Well, I've just started scribbling. To put my thoughts onto paper so people can get inspiration from it. People can start reading it. People can start learning about difficulties and the challenges that I encountered and how I tried to overcome them.
Yeah, 100%. And now, your beautiful wife. How big of a support is she to you in all of this?
Oh, she's incredible. I think I couldn't have done it without her. She kept pushing me to say, you need to start talking about this. You need to start talking about your positivity. You need to start talking about how you normalize yourself. I never go to people. I never try and use my condition in a way that, in a negative way. I always just embrace it and celebrate it. And she's like, even though you do it so seamlessly, it's something to celebrate and talk about so you can help others. Yeah. So I'm really grateful for her.
That's amazing. Now, just going back, when, you guys were obviously talking and she knew she wanted to marry you, her family obviously were a bit skeptical about it.
Yeah.
Did they ever mention, he has this condition, what will your kids be like?
Yes. That was one of the worries they had.
Yeah.
They thought, what if he passes it on to his children? Do you want your children to be like this as well? And she was like, it's all up to God. And medicine has come to a point now where you can look at these things and mitigate the risk of these things even before it happens.
Is this condition something that can be passed on?
Yes, it is a genetic condition. Yeah. There's a 50-50 chance, so one in two chance that your child will have NF1. But like I said, I'm not a doctor, but from the advice I've had, there are ways that it can be mitigated when I'm ready to make that decision.
Okay. So you did mention one of the charities, which was
Face Equality International.
And what was the other charity?
So there's a charity that I work very closely with as well called Changing Faces.
Yeah.
They support people with visible differences with their mental health. They've got sort of one-to-one coaching. They've got other sort of clubs that you can go to where you can meet other people with similar experiences, so you can sort of bounce off inspiration with each other. So the two charities are Face Equality International and Changing Faces.
Amazing. Do go check them out, guys. Now, Amit, before we finish off, I just want you to kind of explain to me and the viewers, what can we do as a community to help and to raise awareness?
Talk about it to your friends, talk about it to your families, talk about it to aunties.
Yeah.
Normalize it. Say, talk about me. Say, you've just seen me on TV.
Yeah.
He has a visible difference, but look at the things he's done. Look at the things that he's got a degree, he's got a wife, he's living a completely normal life. And that's the message. We need to normalize it.
Yeah. So don't define someone.
Don't judge a book by its cover, basically.
I like that little promo for his upcoming book. I mean, it's been really great having you on. Thank you so much. And it's been a really educational, funny, a bit sad sometimes episode, but I think it was definitely needed.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people find you on socials?
So at the moment, I'm on TikTok, Amit Ghose, Instagram, Amit Ghose.
Yeah.
Those are the two platforms that I'm focusing on at the moment, but who knows what the future will.
And if anyone wanted to get in touch with you to share their experiences, do they just send you a DM?
Just DM me.
Amazing. He is there for you guys, and you can catch me next week at the same time. Until then, keep it locked to BritAsia TV.